Now the next step is to isolate the outlines, the black outlines, and not have any other color in that layer. So let's check it by clicking on this background layer and clicking the eyeball and turning off this background layer, which is a white fill. So you'll see that there's a checkerboard pattern in the background, and that just indicates that it's dead space. Now once you go over here to your outline pattern and grab your move tool, you're going to see that there is white fill around Pluto and also inside Pluto. So we're going to get rid of that. So the first thing you're going to do is look for your magic wand. So W is the shortcut for the magic wand tool, which is right there. And then you can click and hold this to see all the other tools that are associated with it. So I'm just going to click on Magic Wand. Now the Magic Wand allows you to select a group or a space as long as it's a closed space. So if I click on the body and making sure that it's a closed space, then it's going to allow me to select only that part of my drawing. Now, if it's not a closed space, like let's open this up, and I'm going to use a brush tool here, just for an example. And I'm going to add some white to this and break up that line. And instead, because of that line break, now it's no longer selecting just the body, and it's selecting everything else that's associated with this space. So back to this thing, Magic Wand, select the part of your outline that has a fill, and then press delete on your keyboard until you see a checkerboard pattern, so that this will show you that there's no pixels inside those things. And you just repeat this until everything, all the other white areas of Pluto are gone. To make this process faster, the other thing you can do is select similar. So you could select this area, and since we're getting rid of the same exact color, which is white right here, you can select one area and go to select up top, and then you're going to go select similar, and it's going to select everything that's in the similar color, and press delete on your keyboard, and then go to select and deselect to get rid of all that marching ants on there. So there's your Pluto outline just by itself. Now the other thing that I didn't get to cover when I pasted this image onto here is how to resize. So if you're ever wondering how to resize, just because Pluto just plays so perfectly on there, to resize an image, all you have to do is go to Edit and Free Transform, and you're going to see a blue bounding box around your image. Then you're going to go onto the corners, and without touching any keys, just your mouse, you can resize your image on there. If you hold on to the middle part, it also allows you to manipulate your sizes on there. If you hold Shift, it makes you constrain or destroy the proportions of your original image. So just be careful that you're not holding on to Shift unless you really need to. If you ever mess up and accidentally do something like that, you can always press Command Z or undo. Okay, so to resize, go to Edit, Transform or Free Transform, and then resize this thing. however you want. And then when you're done, you can press enter or return on your keyboard, or press this check mark right here. And there it is. Now we're gonna add a color to this thing. So this is where our reference is going to come in. So we're gonna go to our cartoons folder. Here is my colored version. I'm going to drag this into Photoshop down here, and then it's gonna open a new file, and it's gonna cover up your original one, which is this guy. So all you have to do is take your colored file, take this tab, and click and drag it down until it's a floating file. So you'll notice that this is the file that's being chosen right now, because if you go in your layers window, you're gonna see a small version of that file. So I'm gonna move this to the right, just so we can have this as a reference. I'm gonna click back on my outline. I'm gonna actually move this window too, so it's a little bit narrower. And here's our layers window again. And we're gonna create a new layer. So to create a new layer, there's multiple ways to go about it. And that's something what you'll find with Photoshop and Illustrator, is that there's multiple ways to do one thing. And the easiest right now, is because my mouse is really close to it, is just to press this icon right here. So this is to add a new layer. Now be careful, because right next to it is the trash can. So you could easily trash something that you don't want. So add a new layer, and then it's automatically going to call it layer 1 or layer whatever number it is. And you're going to rename this layer as your color layer. Once you rename it your color layer, you're going to drag this layer underneath the outline layer until you see that blue streak right there. Be careful that you don't mix those layers. Sometimes it automatically makes folders out of them. So it's not a big deal, but at least for where you guys are at, it could be a little bit confusing. So you're gonna have your outline layer above your color layer. And once you have that, you're gonna select your outline layer. You're gonna go back to your magic wand, and we're gonna repeat similar processes and then add a few. So now let's add this color, this original color of Pluto. So we're gonna select the body. And while that's selected, we're gonna find our paint bucket tool. And the paint bucket tool is G for the shortcut. Now you have to be careful, because if you press letter G, both of these tools get activated. So just make sure that it's the paint bucket tool rather than the gradient tool. So paint bucket tool. And then the reason why I have this window open over here is so that you can sample the color from this image. And to sample that, all you have to do is get on your paint bucket tool first, and this is what the paint bucket tool looks like. But if you hold Option, it changes it into an eyedropper tool. So if you let go of Option, it's just the paint bucket tool, but if you hold Option, it becomes an eyedropper. And that comes in handy when you try to grab a color, and you click on it, and it's automatically going to load it in your color selection up here and down here, sorry. And you're gonna go to your color layer, and you're going to apply it on there. And then you're gonna go to deselect, and then there's your color, or first color of Pluto. And you're going to repeat that same process until the whole thing is colored. Now, be careful when you do this. So my word of advice, so that you don't use the wrong layer, is once you have your outline layer ready and isolated, you can lock this layer so you don't manipulate it. So you can press this guy right here. This is lock all attributes, and it's going to lock that layer. So it's still going to allow you to see it because the visibility is here. So finish all of the colors by using your paint bucket tool and your option. So when you're done with all the colors, you can take off your outline layer, and your color layer should look like this or something similar to this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to save your file, and have a good habit of saving your file once in a while. And then you're going to submit this is the PSD version, which is the Photoshop document, but you're going to save this also as a JPEG, and you're going to submit the JPEG version of this. So to do that, you're going to go to File, Save a Copy, and then you're going to make sure that it's at the desktop. If your screen looks different than this, it's probably because it looks like this, and it's just a matter of pressing this little arrow right there. So I'm going to put desktop to my designation. Format is going to be JPEG. So not these guys right here, but just the JPEG itself. And you'll notice that instead of PSD, once you hit JPEG, it's going to change the extension of your file. So hit JPEG. Okay. Don't change this manually. You have to do it this way. If you change this manually and type JPEG instead of PSD, you are going to more than likely ruin your file. So just make sure you format it correctly by going to Format and JPEG. Desktop is where we want to save it, and hit Save. And a window is going to pop up like this. Just make sure the quality is at least 8 or higher, and then hit OK. And now over here is a copy of that, and that's the file. This file is the file that you are going to submit. That's for the first part, before we add the patterns to this.